The truth that everyone needed to hear, or the biggest lie in television history. If you haven't already guessed by now, the story we're going to be discussing today is Baby Reindeer and all of the controversy surrounding it. So, whether you're a fan of the show or a critic, I hope you enjoy this video and let me know all of your thoughts down below. But for now, let's get started. Now, the woman who identified herself as the inspiration behind the character Martha Scott in the series Baby Reindeer, Fiona Harvey, has filed a $170 million lawsuit against the streaming giant Netflix. Now, Baby Reindeer is named and based on Richard Gadd's one-man Edinburgh Festival play, and it launched on Netflix worldwide on the 11th of April, quickly becoming a monster hit on the streamer. In the show, Richard Gadd plays a fictionalized version of himself named Donnie Dunn. In the 7-episode limited series, this follows Dunn as he attempts to graduate from barman to comedian, and on the way attracts a rabid female stalker called Martha, who sends him thousands of emails and harasses his family and his girlfriend. Now, in interviews, Gadd has said that he has changed identifying details about the real-life Martha, but we all know how quick the internet is at figuring everything out and at figuring out the real-life inspiration behind this series, as they very quickly have, and that's how they found Fiona Harvey. They found her social media account, which had interacted frequently with Gadd during the period when the show is set, and they even shared specific phrases used in the show, such as the very famous phrase from the show about hanging Martha's curtains. And like the fictional Martha, Fiona Harvey is a brunette, she's a plus-size woman, and she is Scottish with a legal background and a history of stalking. So this lawsuit was filed on Thursday, so 2 weeks ago, in the US District Court for the Central District of California, and Fiona Harvey specifically has accused Netflix of defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, gross negligence, and violations of her right of publicity. It also follows the phenomenal success of this series, which does star Richard Gadd, who has created the show and obviously has also acted in the show based on his own experiences. Now, Harvey has publicly identified herself as the inspiration behind the series, but has denied being a stalker and the claims that specifically she sent Richard Gadd 41,000 emails, hundreds of voice messages, and 106 letters. And this was also mentioned in the series. The lawsuit went on to add that Netflix, a multinational billion-dollar entertainment streaming company, did literally nothing to confirm the true story that Gadd told. That is, it never investigated whether Harvey was actually convicted, which is a very serious misrepresentation of the facts. It also did nothing to understand the relationship between Gadd and Harvey, if any, and as a result of Netflix's lies, be very mindful that here the defendant is Netflix rather than Richard Gadd. And it says that as a result of the defendant's lies, malfeasance, and utterly reckless misconduct, Harvey's life has been ruined. Simply, Netflix and Gadd destroyed her reputation, her character, and her life. So she is seeking $50 million for actual damages, at least $50 million in compensatory damages for mental anguish, loss of enjoyment, and loss of business, and at least $50 million from all the profits of Baby Reindeer, and a further $20 million for punitive damages. Now, Harvey's lawyers point out that Netflix has said it needed more compelling content in order to increase its paid subscribers, and therefore did not do enough to fact check Richard's script prior to making the series. And some more important claims. Miss Harvey also denies that she sexually assaulted the show's creator, according to court documents, which allege that Netflix told these lies and never stopped because it was a better story than the truth, and better stories made money. So Richard Roth, a New York-based lawyer, is representing Miss Harvey and has told the BBC that there was no doubt that her identity was used for Baby Reindeer's plot. He said he had documentary evidence proving that his client had never been convicted of a crime. The lawsuit includes a photo of a background check and a certificate that claims that Ms. Harvey has no criminal convictions on her record. She also did a nearly 1 hour long interview with Piers Morgan last month on his YouTube channel, and it had, I think, at the time of recording, about 11 million views, and has done even more across various social medias, so TikTok and Instagram and all the short form clips that have been made of it. And Miss Harvey in that interview confirmed that she had known Mr. Gadd during his time working at a pub in London. But again, she denied the claims of all the emails that she had sent. However, the lawsuit does say that she made some real comments to Mr. Gadd at the time, such as a tweet she sent to him in 2014, which was used in the show's dialogue and also found by our amazing, shall we say, sometimes, or sometimes highly annoying to especially those who are making the show for a particular reason. All our armchair critics have also found these tweets and those Facebook messages. Now, also according to the lawsuit, Harvey earned a degree of Bachelor of Laws from the University of Aberdeen in 1990, a diploma in legal practice from the University of Strathclyde in 1993, and an entrance certificate to the Law Society of Scotland in 1997. In 2005, she also earned her graduate diploma in law from the University of Westminster, according to the lawsuit, but she couldn't remember any of her grades or any of the results that she got when she went on the Piers Morgan show. So whether this is true or not will be confirmed, or will either way we'll find that out in the actual trial, but for now that's what it says in the lawsuit. Now, next up, let's look a little bit at the success of Baby Reindeer and sort of where this controversy actually came from. Last week, Baby Reindeer was a major winner at the Gotham TV Awards in New York City and is expected to be a frontrunner with Emmy nominations announced in July. The series has over 60 million viewers in its first month on the platform and is expected to become one of Netflix's 10 biggest shows ever. However, of course, it started generating controversy pretty much straight away, with questions asked then about the proximity of the show's events to the lives of the real people and the duty of care that broadcasters need to show or should show to those featured in the program, particularly since the claim of this being a true story. Now, of course, all our armchair detectives found the real-life figures that inspired the series, although a point to note is that there is much more emphasis on Martha, so whether that is Fiona Harvey or not will be confirmed or denied in the lawsuit, rather than the other person that allegedly also sexually assaulted Gadd during the show. And whilst there is mention of the male character and who that real person might be in real life, there is a lot more attention paid on the female stalker, on the character of Martha Scott. So it is interesting to think about why that might be the case, and what that says about either how easy it was to find the real life Martha, or how much more people paid attention to that as opposed to the other character in the show who had done who had a name in the media industry and who had also done such damage to the character of Richard Gadd. So as more and more armchair critics then attempted to find the real life figures, there was also obviously backlash for Baby Reindeer, with many asking whether more safeguarding measures could have been enacted to prevent viewers from being able to identify them. Now, Netflix remained silent on the subject for a long time, but after Harvey actually filed the lawsuit, a Netflix spokesperson said that we intend to defend this matter vigorously and we stand by Richard Gadd's right to tell his story. The show was also held up by Netflix's co-chief executive Greg Peters, and among those that have helped support growth in the service over the past year, at a presentation to the Enders Conference last week. Now, Peters said that Netflix would continue to invest in their slate to grow, even as competitors are pulling back, and would also broaden its service with live sports and events games from next year, and also host the first Netflix House, a type of themed venue featuring its TV brands. So you can tell how he is wanting to portray Baby Reindeer as something where they are bringing original content and new content whilst other streaming platforms are pulling back. Now, Gad's perspective on this is that in an interview with The Guardian in April, he spoke of the series and said that yes, he had tweaked it slightly to create dramatic climaxes. He said it's very emotionally true, of course. He was severely stalked and abused, but he wanted it to exist in the sphere of art as well as to protect the people it's based on. So it is interesting that Gad also had an Instagram story where, which is now expired, of course, where he did say that the point of the show was not to go out and find those real life people, but with making the characters so incredibly similar to those real life characters, that does question whether that was really the intention and sort of what he wanted to happen once the show had been released. Now, let's look a little bit closer at the this is a true story bit, because that is one big part of the lawsuit and how the lawsuit has actually come about. So that's going to be the next section. Now, this has also been a point of a lot of controversy and discussion, because the first episode of the series does say this is a true story. However, the show's end credit do say that the program is based on real life events, but certain characters, names, incidents, locations, and dialogue have been fictionalized for dramatic purposes. But I think the fact that at the start it said this is a true story rather than this is based on a true story has generated that level of controversy, and of course has led to this claim in the lawsuit, which Fiona Harvey has put against Netflix for defamation. While giving evidence before the Culture, Media and Sport Committee in Parliament last month, Netflix executive Benjamin King said the show was obviously a true story of the horrific abuse of the writer and protagonist Richard Gadd suffered at the hands of a convicted stalker. Now, Mr. King was subsequently kind of challenged by an MP, the SNP's John Nicholson, to substantiate his statements, because Mr. Nicholson said that journalists can find no evidence to back up the Netflix claim of a conviction for the woman identified as the inspiration for Martha. Now, how this lawsuit shakes out, because of course, whether these convictions are actually there against the alleged real-life Martha Fiona Harvey are going to come out in this lawsuit. But how it sort of, shakes out is really going to affect the way that television is made for the foreseeable future. Now, the consensus seems to be that just two words could have spared Netflix this hassle. They could have said that this is based on, and perhaps they would have had a lot more cover. So in the short term, regardless of Harvey's verdict, we can probably expect a lot more disclaimers at the start of TV shows. And in the medium term, we can perhaps expect that anyone who is writing a show loosely based on true events may kind of, go to more lengths to really try and fudge the facts and change the appearance, both sort of the physical appearance and the personalities of the characters in the show. So Baby Reindeer might have changed Harvey's name and also changed Richard Gadd's name. It replicated the look, the accent, the age, the geographic location, and some of the dialogue. Going forward, we can expect writers to protect themselves by attempting to camouflage the source of their inspiration. Now, this is not the first case where we have seen, kind of Netflix or other streaming platforms being sued for defamation, especially based on sort of real life shows that they've created. So some examples, we have had a lot of biopics about people who are still alive. For example, in recent years, we've had The Crown, we've had Dope Sick, we've had The Dropout, We Crashed, Super Pumped, Inventing Anna, and so many others. And for better or for worse, the figures in these shows, if Harvey's verdict is if she is successful in her claim against Netflix, we can see that maybe more of these characters are going to start claiming their reputation has been harmed by these shows and file lawsuits of their own. So in 2022, we've already seen this. Netflix had to settle when Queen's Gambit prompted it to be sued by a female chess grandmaster. It's also currently being sued by a Vanity Fair photo editor over their portrayal in Inventing Anna. And last week, Netflix announced that it had settled a defamation case taken up by a former Manhattan prosecutor, Linda Fairstein, after her unfavorable portrayal in the 2019 miniseries When They See Us, which led her to being dropped by her publishers. And the settlement cost Netflix $1 million. Harvey's lawsuit, if she gets even somewhere close to the $170 million that she's alleging, is going to cost Netflix a lot more. So if broadcasters after this point decide the truth is too expensive and retreat back to the world of pure fiction, we probably know why that got started. And in terms of the complaints against Fiona Harvey, On when she came on Piers Morgan, there were a couple of things that were put to her, but there's also been a couple more discoveries in the last couple of weeks. So let's have a bit of a closer look at Harvey has been accused of sending numerous emails to other public figures, including Labour politician and potential future PM. We have the election in a month. There is a allegation that she's reportedly sent 276 messages over the span of less than 8 months. Some of the emails were laden with a lot of sort of insult, including calling Starmer a stupid little boy and using a slur against his wife, reported by The Sun. Harvey has also denied on the Piers Morgan show that she had ever heckled Gad during his comedy performances, as Martha was depicted to have done to Donnie in the show, or that she's ever assaulted his girlfriend like Martha did. However, neither was mentioned in the complaint outlining how Harvey felt about being defamed. So, whether that's something that then comes up in Netflix's rebuttal or something that is just not mentioned is something that we're going to have to see when the lawsuit eventually begins. And while Harvey did claim in a complaint that she has never stalked Gad, she did not address accusations that she has faced about stalking a former employer at a law firm, a detail that was also shown very cleverly in Baby Reindeer through the fictional newspaper headline, Sick Stalker Targets Barrister's Deaf Child. Now, again, as our armchair detectives came back, they have unearthed some newspaper articles from the early 2000s about Harvey reportedly harassing Laura Ray, a lawyer and a widow of a former politician, Ray, and she told the Daily Mirror that the show's Martha was undeniably a portrayal of the Harvey that she remembered. She said it was obvious to me and a lot of other people that she was my stalker. The only thing they changed about her was her name. And she also gave praise to the lady who acted as Martha, and she's been getting praise from all across the world, Jessica Gunning, who said that the way she played Martha was excellent, and she even had the same laugh, and even the same slightly kind of funny waddling walk. Now, while Ray's easy identification of Harvey might kind of help her case against Netflix, she's also said in an appearance on Piers Morgan's show earlier this week that she's considering her own suit against Harvey, but has hesitated because she feels like Fiona Harvey has no money. Ray alleges that reparation claims are very expensive to mount, and there's very little point in me suing her if she's got nothing. A very fair point. However, she notes that if Netflix ends up giving her any sort of money, then she'd certainly be suing. So that again is an interesting point of there are other claims against Harvey, which definitely backs Netflix's case and also backs Richard Gadd's case, although he's not a defendant in this case. But of course, this has all started from the creation of his show of Baby Reindeer. So it'll be interesting to see what happens during the lawsuit and also after the lawsuit in terms of other people that may come forward, whether their aim is to get money or it is purely to ensure that their story gets heard and they back up everything that Richard Gadd has claimed in the show. Having watched the show, I think, my first real kind of point of it was that it was brilliantly done. It was, I think, knowing the fact that Richard Gadd had really lived through this, and had gone through it and then was recreating it was amazing. And I think that it really brought the world to a standstill. It brought the world to a place where it was listening and where it was looking at the effects of stalking and the effects of what happens when a person is so heavily stalked. And I think that, that is a real testament to how well the show was created. So I feel like, firstly, we need to bear in mind that that's what it is first. It is a work of art, as Richard Gadd has said in his interviews, and the acting by both him and Jessica Gunning was just incredible. But of course, in a world where, we do have social media and it starts by saying this is a true story, it is worth considering whether even just saying this is based on a true story would have meant that the real life characters wouldn't have been able to bring this lawsuit first, yes, but more importantly, there would have been that duty of care that is given by broadcasters that sort of would have been completed, regardless of whether or not Gadd is telling the truth about everything that has happened, or there is some truth to what Fiona Harvey's claim is, the alleged Martha Scott. I think that could have saved both sides a lot of trouble. But the other point to also consider is, what's the role that society and we as viewers have played. Was it important for the armchair critics to go and find that real person? And, the irony of sending her death threats and sending her messages and stalking her when the entire reason they began was because she was a stalker. I think those are all interesting things to think about in terms of the role that Gad and the creators of the show have played, and Netflix have played to one extent, in bringing awareness to an important crime, something that a lot of people are facing in today's world. But also on the flip side of that, the role that we have played in terms of, kind of, and when I mean we, I mean not obviously every person that has watched the show, but a lot of people that have then gone on to try and find the people and, kind of try and harass them. Really, what good has that done to anyone? I think that's an important thing to think about. And from a commercial angle, which of course this show is called Commerce Meets Law, and we want to discuss that on the YouTube channel. From Netflix's perspective of actually, saying that they weren't sure whether this would be a massive hit. It was meant to be for a more niche audience, particularly because it's a very sort of heavily British show. But I think that the message has resonated with so many people, and that's a big aspect of what shows and entertainment is meant to do as well. It's, of course, meant to entertain as a primary aspect, but it's also meant to inform, it's meant to educate, and I think that it has done that very successfully. So I think whilst Netflix have made a lot of money from it, I also think that it was, in one sense, brave for them to be able to put this story out there and to take it from the Edinburgh Fringe, which is known to have a lot of shows like this. It has taken that and put it on a platform where more people across the world are going to be able to see this and are going to be able to relate to the experiences. And I think that has, enabled a lot of people to come forward about their own sexual assault experiences, about the role of this in the media, and whether that is still the case today. So I think that there are important messages that come from it, but whether they could have saved themselves the hassle and perhaps saved a lot of other people from kind of conspiring and thinking about it more than just what the show was meant to say, by saying based on, is something to consider. So I think it's a very interesting case, and I think that whatever happens in the lawsuit, it's going to be one that's going to be talked about for a long time. But do definitely let me know what your thoughts are on the show, what you think should be the sort of what you think should be the ending of this, or what you think should happen next, and the consequences of the show. And if you haven't watched it, then definitely do give it a watch, because I think that it's something that everyone should definitely watch to take the message from this show. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely do like and subscribe if you liked this video. It was, again, a bit of a different one for the sort of YouTube channel, but I really felt compelled to make a video about this, particularly because I was so interested in it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you very soon for the next video. But for now, goodbye and take care.